Welcome to the Drug War Roadshow. This play was developed by the National Fellowship of Reconciliation's Columbia program, which is part of the National FOR's Task Force on Latin America and the Caribbean. The Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation produced this performance in Olympia, Washington, in the studio of Thurston Community Television, TCTV. The Drug War Roadshow informs audiences and invites them to question the U.S.'s 25-year-old, $25 billion drug war through fresh information, provocative questions, audience participation, and good old-fashioned fun. The Drug War Roadshow combines classic popular education tools, a skit, big puppets, and humor, with rare on-the-ground digital images that examine the human impacts of U.S. drug policy. The Drug War Roadshow believes all of us should have a say in how our nation addresses issues of drugs, crime, and foreign policy. We thank the volunteers from the greater Olympia area for participating as actors, audience, crew members. Now let's watch the Drug War Roadshow. Act 1, Babblin' Babs, the bureaucrat, gets even tougher on the drug war and hurts her foot.
Welcome to the Drug War Roadshow. I'm Carla, the common sense mechanic. And like you, well, most of you, I'm a pretty good person, but living here in the United States of America is very hard to keep you track on what's really going on in the world. So I try to approach things with common sense. So, like you, I'm going to be watching this show, and we're going to together try to figure out whether this drug war car is working or whether it's going to need some serious repairs. Now, this is a popular education show, so feel free to respond. If you feel like cheering, go ahead, cheer. Yay! Good. If you feel like booing, go ahead, boo. Boo. Fabulous. If we ask you to say yes, say yeah. If we want you to say no, say no. Rockin', you're fabulous. Now, don't worry if your neighbor says yeah and you say no, or hurrah and you say boo. That's life, isn't it? Ha. Okay, so, as you may know, in 1965, we'll start with the 60s, Robert Kennedy tried to promote an enlightened drug policy before our country decided to declare war on its citizens. Yeah, he told Congress the way to fight the war on drugs, or to fight drugs, was by creating jobs, increasing education, and health care. Whoa, what a concept. He was really saying, let's have a war on poverty, not a war on drugs.
Oh, ha, ha, ha. I'll tell you what I told silly Bobby 40 years ago. You'll never solve drugs by creating jobs or giving treatment to addicts. We need bombs, not books. Helicopters, not hospitals. Guns, not free treatment on demand. Do you see this car below me? Well, audience, do you see it?
Yeah, there it is. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah, this car represents the drug war, and you can see the car looks pretty banged up. This is marvelous. It means we're making progress. But we need to strike harder if we're going to actually win the war. I think I'll chip in a bit and give the drug war a few kicks on my own. Why? Because we're rough, we're tough, and we haven't had enough. Get tougher, get tougher,
please, who are you?
I'm Babs the bureaucrat. Babs the babbling, bubbling, bumbling Yes, humph. Babs the bureaucrat. I represent the pinstripe Marines, those of us in the U.S. government who implement, advise, and craft U.S. drug policy. And yes, I am proud to say that today we are winning the war. We have locked up over 2 million Americans. Audience, what do you think about that?
That's terrible.
Isn't the progress astounding? We have more people in prison than any other country in the world.
Yeah.
We are number one. We have 500,000 people in jail just for nonviolent drug crimes. That's more people than we had in our entire prison population in 1980. But we're rough, we're tough, and we haven't had enough. Quick, kick.
Whoa.
Get tougher, get kicked.
Babs, 500,000 people in jail for nonviolent crimes? That's a lot of people. Audience, did you know that in Iran and China you can get the death penalty for drug offenses? And that still hasn't lowered their rate of drug use. You know, it seems to me that throwing people in jail isn't the way to get us any closer to our real goals when it comes to drugs. Babs, it also makes me wonder why you even think of calling this a war. The drug problem. No, war probably means two parties fighting over something, but who's fighting who in this drug war?
I can't hear you, silly mechanic. You are supposed to be the voice of reason, of common sense. But your problem is you don't understand the logic of continual escalation. Yes, if at first you don't succeed, escalate, escalate, escalate. When Nixon won re-election in 1972, the annual federal drug war budget was about $100 million. Now the federal drug war budget is approaching $20 billion. And with all the state and local spending, it's about $57 billion. $57 billion. $57 billion. Audience, did you hear how big the total war budget is? Yeah. Haven't we done a marvelous job escalating funding?
No.
How much are we up to again? 57 billion?
Whoa, that's a lot of money. I tell you, Babs, aren't there just as many drugs as before? Like before Nixon, back in 72, before then, back when the budget was around 100 million, weren't there just as many drugs on the street then as there are now? Only now you're spending billions of dollars.
Yes, that's why we need to escalate spending, so that we can see some real progress. With all your common sense, you should know that you can't win something like the drug war overnight.
I didn't say we were going to win overnight. But geez, in 30 years, I should think we would have seen some improvements by now, wouldn't you? I mean, we already know that you think the drug war in the U.S. has been a success.
Yes, dear, a global market model, yes.
Oh, boy. So I'm wondering what you think about the U.S. financed drug war in Colombia, the plan called Plan Colombia. Do you think that's been a success?
Why, of course, you little runt. Astounding progress there, really. You know, we export steel, we export corn. Now we are exporting our domestic drug wars successes abroad.
I thought you'd say that. Well, I guess it's time for a celebration. Woohoo! Let's get out the cake and the balloons. Oh,
I love parties. I love parties.
Yeah, you're going to love this one. All right. This is the balloon theory that you all might find kind of interesting. All right. It's the magic number, 200,000. All right? 200,000. Now, here's how it works, Bab. No matter what you and your friends down in South America do in South America to curb coca production, the number of coca hectares anywhere stays steady at 200,000. Coca production drops in Bolivia, but then increases in Colombia. Coca production drops in Peru, but pops up in Colombia. So if we look at the region as a whole, coca production has been at around 200,000 hectares for 20 years.
Well, in the 1980s, I believed in the balloon theory. Then lately, I've denied it. Last year, I said that balloon theory was a myth. But at a press conference a couple months ago, they had me say that we were seeing evidence of the theory in the Andes. If I sound confused, it's just because you're getting me off track with all your common sense. Carla, of course, what all this actually proves is that those countries in South America need our help. We need to export our drug war to Colombia and beyond. Because, sing it with me now, we're rough, we're tough, and we haven't had enough. Get tougher, kick, get tougher, kick. I just kicked so hard I hurt my foot.
Yeah, you better watch what you're kicking, Babs. Looks like things are getting a little out of control. Sometimes seems like the politicians are so disconnected from the way drugs affect everyday people. Like before I make up my mind about what Babs is saying, I feel like I need to hear directly from maybe a Colombian who is living through the drug war and how it's affecting his people down there. Luckily, Camilo the Campesino de Colombia is in town visiting from his small farm in Colombia. Camilo!
Act 2, Camilo, the campesino coca farmer, gets fumigated and wonders what his family will eat.
Hola, Camilo.
Hola, yo soy Camilo, un campesino colombiano. I want to tell you the story of my life. My story is the story of Colombia. When the Creator made the world, He gave some countries mountains and others coast. He gave some countries high plains and others jungle. He gave Colombia everything. He gave Colombia the Amazon, home to 1/6 of the world's bird species. He gave Colombia fertile land for her papas, potatoes, quinoa, yucca, beans and corn. He gave her rivers and oceans full of life and fish. He gave Colombia oil, gold, emeralds, and salt. He gave Colombia the narrow piece of land today known as the Choco, which connects South and Central America. Everything was in place to make for a marvelous life. Everything was perfect. Isn't my country beautiful? Qué bonito, what a diverse, gorgeous country. But what most people know about Colombia is, well, hey, what do you know? What comes to mind when you hear Colombia?
Danger! Military bases!
Oh, all right, not a bad start, though I can't help but notice the only news you seem to get about my country is negative news.
It's true, Camilo. Colombia looked great in those slides, but like a lot of you people, I think all the violence down there is all there is, you know. And Babs is right. Maybe the U.S. should be trying to help, but I don't know enough about Colombia to have a well-formulated opinion. Can you tell us a little bit more about your family and how the war on drugs has affected and impacted you?
I have a wife and 5 kids. We used to live in Putumayo in the south until we were displaced 2 years ago and moved to Nariño. We had always grown food for our family and sold bananas for cash until the coca arrived in the 70s. They say cocaine traffickers wanted to produce leaf right in Colombia instead of importing coca from Bolivia or Peru. We packed bananas on our backs or our donkey and carried them through the mud 2 days' walk to the closest road. Our bananas would rot waiting for the truck to come to transport them to Puerto Asís. My wife would say, "Camilo, what are we supposed to eat?" That is what I thought of every day and what I was thinking when the first man brought me coca. He said he would come right to my house to buy the harvest and pay me many times more than I was making on bananas. He gave me agrochemicals and technical assistance. We will eat, I told my wife. I had never heard of cocaine. our kids will eat, I told my wife. There was a coca bonanza. I didn't know anyone who didn't grow coca, except my brother. He had always grown cacao, you know, what they make into chocolate. I traded coca for sugar and received change at the grocery store in cocaine base, not pesos. We were not rich, but we ate 3 meals a day. Rafael, my son, even went to school. One day, the fumigation planes came. Have you ever seen the look on a farmer's face right before he loses everything? With fumigations came more military. We lost our coca, but they also sprayed our yuca, beans, corn, and bananas. Camilo, what are we going to eat? My wife said. We'll eat from my brother's land, I said. Samuel won't get sprayed because he doesn't have coca. I was wrong. They sprayed Samuel's land too, and he lost everything. They sprayed schools and hospitals. They sprayed people and all our rivers. They said the spray only kills coca, but it killed everything, everything. As everything around us died, my wife asked me what we were going to eat. I thought it couldn't get worse, but it did. Everyone broke out in rashes. Our eyes stung from the spray. We had headaches. My little ones threw up for days. Many women in our village miscarried. First, our chickens died, then the cows. Fish washed up dead on the Guamacos River. We began to live on scorched earth. On the radio, it said the government would compensate farmers who were wrongly sprayed. We were told we couldn't be compensated for our lost food crops because we also had coca. Our only hope was that they would compensate my brother Samuel because he never had coca. Samuel filed for compensation and we waited. We waited and waited. We weren't the only ones who were hoping for compensation. Thousands of people just in my department of Putumayo filed for compensation. Carla told me that there were over 4,000 farmers who filed for compensation for wrongful fumigation. And let me tell you, there were thousands of us who didn't even bother to do the paperwork. But of those 4,000, only 11 were compensated. Only one farmer from Putumayo, where most of the fumigations happen, I can tell you, there are hundreds of coca-free farmers in Colombia like my brother who were sprayed and never compensated. But where was I with my story? Oh yes, life after fumigations. Well, we were hungry, but we got on with our lives. We replanted, but the land was poisoned. The cacao looked fine, but inside it was rotten. Banana trees lived, but fruited shriveled bananas. Ironically, The only crop that did well after the fumigations was coca. Many farmers didn't even have to replant. The fumigated coca came back on its own. I was sprayed 4 different times before I moved to Nariño. My brother has been sprayed 3 times, even though he never had coca, and they never compensated him. Even with the losses from fumigations, it's still better for my family for us to grow coca, because it is the only crop that fetches a decent market price. They say the US government is behind the fumigations, and I can't help but think, no me ayudes tanto, compadre. That means, don't help me out so much, brother. Carla, you asked me what kind of help we need, and I can tell you we don't need more military aid. We need money for health care and education. I wonder why your government is fumigating poor people's food. I wonder why your government doesn't invest here in health care and education. I wonder if your government really believes people will stop growing coca when there is no money for alternative development. I wonder why you are sowing death and hunger in the name of your war on drugs when all the cocaine consumers are in the country. But most of all, I wonder what we are going to eat.
Act 3, struggling Stan tries to help his family and winds up in jail. He gets out and starts to wonder if the system is set up for him to fail.
I wonder every day what we are going to eat too, because life is hard in the U.S.
Life is hard in the US? You think life is hard if you only have 1 car instead of 2, 2 houses instead of 3. Everyone knows the US is the wealthiest country in the world, and if you're not rich, you're just lazy. How could life be hard there?
You crazy Mexican. Life is hard here, man. You don't know nothing about my life.
Ojo, hermano, I'm not Mexican, I'm Colombian. Not everyone who speaks Spanish is Mexican, you know? All right, then, what's your story?
I have 6 brothers and sisters, and I'm the oldest. Every day of my life, I watched my mom bus it an hour each way to the suburbs for a minimum wage job. We never had enough money. On my 15th birthday, I got my first job. I made $250 a week. I just whistled when I saw the cops. My extra income changed our family life for a while. My siblings got new shoes. There was always food for dinner. My mom would look at me funny, but she never said anything. We were just trying to survive. Besides, I was still in school. A few years later, we got busted. Well, I did anyway. Everyone ratted on me and said I was a kingpin, but I didn't know anything about the operation. The cops said, "Fess up or else." But I didn't have any info to confess. No names, no sources, nada. I never did anything but small deals on the block. The jury found me guilty, and I got 15 to life. I was so angry and confused. It didn't seem like I had done anything so bad to be caged up like that, and for so long. They've been building so many prisons in the last 30 years. I guess they're just looking for ways to fill up those empty jail cells. 'Cause you know, at least in my case, the punishment didn't fit the crime. I remember hearing about something called the prison industrial complex, all the private corporations and interest groups that are corrupting our criminal justice system, but I didn't really know what they were talking about. Hey, could someone from the audience volunteer to help me read a couple slides?
Between 1990 and 1999, over 245 jails and prisons were built in rural communities, about 1 every 15 days. There are more prisons in America than Walmarts, and more prisoners than farmers. These prisoners are now seen as an economic opportunity. When legislators cry, "Lock 'em up," what they mean now is, "Lock 'em up in my district."
Yes, that's right. That's all part of the prison industrial complex. And so as I learned more, I began to wonder, if I was white, would it have made a difference? With my sentence, I mean. Audience, you know that cocaine is a drug in the white community and crack is a drug in the black community. So, if you get caught with 500 grams of cocaine, the mandatory minimum is 5 years. Can you guess how much crack you have to get a mandatory minimum of 5 years?
300.
Well, just 5 grams. So now do you think it would have made a difference if I was white?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I noticed that most of the folks inside the prison were black like me, but it never seemed to me like black folks do more drugs than white folks, or anybody else for that matter. Hey, can my friend in the audience read what's on the screen right now?
African Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, 13% of drug users, 35% of drug arrests, 55% of drug convictions, and 74% of those sentenced to prisons for drugs.
And people wonder why we don't trust the cops. When I got out of jail, I was still struggling, but now I was struggling Stan, the ex-felon. Let me tell you what it's like in the U.S. to be marked as a felon. The first thing you think is, I'm going home to my family. But my kids barely knew me when I got out. I was locked up so far from where their mom lives, they almost never came to visit. I was a stranger. My mom was on my case. My kid's mom was upset with me. They said I was a loser. So you think, I've got to get back on my feet. I need a job. But no one wants to hire a, quote, ex-felon. Employers think I'm dangerous and violent. You hear criminal background check and might as well walk right out of the room. If you're black, forget it. No one will hire you. You think, oh, so I should go back to school. But the government doesn't issue student loans to ex-felons. I wonder how much they spend locking people up. Then you get out and there's not a dime for education, not even for a loan. So then you think, I'm back to struggling to meet my basic needs. You think, I need a place to sleep, but you are barred from public housing. You think, I need to eat, but you no longer qualify for welfare or food stamps. You're out of jail now, but it seems like you are still being punished, and the punishment just doesn't seem to fit the crime. It seems like you're all alone, and your only friends are the guys out on the street, the ones who got you in trouble in the first place. Sometimes, at the end of the day, if you are still standing, you think, I'm going to change the system. But guess what? Ex-felons can't vote. So no, Camilo. There's no poison dropping out of the sky and messing up my life. But it feels like there is. It feels like the structure is out to screw me over. Like they're fumigating my future and my dreams and my possibilities for a good life. Just like they are fumigating your, what did you say that cocaine plant is called again?
Coca. That's funny. You don't know what coca is, and I don't know what cocaine is, but those products have defined our lives.
You're Colombian, man. What do you mean you don't know what cocaine is?
I'm from the countryside. No one in my community uses cocaine. So how would I know that much about it? All I know is that I grow coca leaf, which is used to make cocaine.
Where I'm from, nothing grows except concrete.
Sounds like we're pretty different.
Yeah, for real. So why are we even talking to each other?
I don't know. I don't even speak English.
Well, I don't even speak Spanish.
I'm mestizo, indigenous, moreno, brown.
I'm black.
I work hard, but never know where I'm going to get my next meal.
I work hard, but never know where I'm going to get my next meal.
I don't have health care, and my kid can't get a good education.
I don't have health care, and my kids can't get a good education.
I don't want to grow coca, but there are no other jobs, and I have to support my family somehow.
I don't want to hustle drugs, but there are no other jobs, and I have to support my family somehow.
Is there an echo in here?
Is there an echo in here?
My hopes, my dreams, my tears.
His story is mine, I fear. Are things not what they appear? I guess we're not that different after all.
Camilo, the campesino coca farmer, and struggling Stan realize their struggles are the same. Babs gets so tough on the drug war, she winds up in the hospital.
Well, These are very moving personal stories, but a bit on the dramatic side, wouldn't you say? Especially Juan's or Carlos's story.
You mean Camilo's story.
Oh, yeah, Camilo's story. He clearly has no clue about what he's talking about. I'd like to make a couple of points. Number one, I believe in the fumigations program because it is science-based. There are simply no errors. If Camilo's brother was fumigated, there can be only one explanation. They were growing coca. Which brings me to number two. If there were a case where someone was erroneously fumigated, though frankly that is impossible, we have the straightforward, user-friendly compensation process farmers can access. Oh yes, there were some problems with those forms before 2003, like we were asking poor people in a region where no one has land titles for the GPS coordinates of their land as a requirement, but as I mentioned, the form was modified in 2003 and the problem rectified. Number three, it just isn't true what he said about glyphosate fumigations causing health and environmental effects. Our government studies and the Monsanto Corporation's research clearly proves that Roundup is a safe chemical. So safe it is what is used by every gardener in the U.S. It is so safe I would gladly drink a glass of it myself. We've got to get clear up these lies or we're going to make progress on the drug war. So we can make progress. And you know, I built my entire career on being tough on drugs because I'm rough, I'm tough.
Yeah, we know you cheer. But you know what, Babblin' Babs? We've had enough of the war on drugs. It's time to look under the hood and see what's really driving this stupid car.
Oh, stop, you filthy mechanic. Don't you dare look under the hood and see what is really driving the drug war. What about our youth? They will fall victim to drugs. Our communities will be ruined.
Threats that if we don't criminalize drug users and dealers, drugs will destroy our kids' lives.
Actually, Babs, in a prohibition place like the economy, where there's high demand, escalating law enforcement often produces the opposite of the intended result. So by attempting to constrict the supply while demand remains high, our policies have made these relatively worthless commodities into substances of extreme value. For example, marijuana is called a weed because it grows everywhere. But now it's worth its weight in gold, $350 an ounce. Cocaine, heroin, worth their weight in gold many times over. By being tough on drugs, you actually increase the value of illegal drugs.
Oh, that's lunacy. Keeping drugs illegal is the only way to keep our families safe.
Oh, sure.
No space for dialogue. Anyone who suggests decriminalization or a harm reduction is a lunatic.
Yeah. Well, wake up, Babs. Drug prohibition doesn't mean we control drugs. It means we give up the right to control them. Don't you remember when we tried to prohibit alcohol in the 20s?
Oh, but what will I tell Monty Monsanto and Sly Sikorsky on the golf course tomorrow? They have been so supportive of Plan Colombia.
Oh, boy. Monty Monsanto of Monsanto Corporation, the company that makes glyphosate, the chemical they're spraying in Colombia. and Sly Sikorsky, who makes all those cute little helicopters. You're playing golf with them tomorrow? Huh.
Economic interests from arms, drug, and chemical manufacturers drive the U.S. drug war.
Oh, people won't vote for me if they think I'm soft on drugs and narco-terrorism.
Terrorism? Who said anything about terrorism?
Politicians' fear of being soft on drugs and soft on terrorism maintains the status quo. War on drugs equals war on terror. Argument that if you fight one, you're also fighting the other.
Yo no soy terrorista.
I'm not a terrorist either.
Hey, I didn't say you two were terrorists, but everybody knows there are narco-terrorists down there in Colombia growing coca. And narco thugs like all those African-American and Latino gangbangers we see on TV all the time committing terrorism in our communities.
I grow coca. I'm not a terrorist.
I sell crack, but I'm not a terrorist.
No, I didn't say you were terrorists. It's more people like you that are terrorists.
People like us
are
aren't
not
terrorists. Our only crime is being poor and trying to make ends meet.
You know what I think? Common sense tells me that we've gotten to the point where the drug war is hurting more people than the drugs themselves. We don't need to get tough on drugs. We need to get smart and steer this car in a brand new direction. What do you think, folks? What do you think? Yeah.
I hear that, Carla. And know something else I learned tonight? I learned that me and Camilo over here, we got to join forces. People's movements need to be scheming together across borders, just like politicians and corporations are scheming together all over the world.
See, Stan, in my country we have so many good examples of nonviolent resistance to armed and economic violence.
In the U.S., people are organizing around these issues too.
Both of you are right. There is great work going on in Colombia and the U.S. with binational efforts, concerned people from both countries working together to make alternatives to the drug war. I imagine a lot of people in our audience are maybe thinking they'd like to get involved. Some proactive steps you can take. You might not know how. Hey, check out. This is what's already going on. So you can see there are lots of
folks,
things
it's been
going
great
on.
chatting with you.
Wow.
Oh, but I've got to run. Just remember, this fine drug war isn't in need of repairs. It is making the world safer for everyone. Get tougher. Let me give the drug war one more kick on the side right here. There. Oh, I hurt my foot. Help. Ambulance. See, this is exactly what I've been talking about. If we don't strengthen our war on drugs, people get hurt. I need an ambulance. Get tougher. Kick. Get tougher.
Oh, boy. Even after being hit on the head with her own drug war, Bob still thinks it's helping people, and it's a big success. Ah, well.
Something tells me it won't be the last time that green-faced know-nothing gets hurt putting her high heels somewhere it don't belong.
I think it's about time to trade in this failing war on drugs for a war on poverty. What do you people think? Yeah!
Carla, we think you have got it right, and with $57 billion changes in sight.
We'll fund hospitals and spiff up the schools using books and rhymes as our organizing tools.
We've got real ideas to make our communities strong, like keeping mothers with their kids where they belong.
And ending mandatory minimums sent from the feds, because every day it seems another black guy's dead.
Or locked up somewhere with no hopes for future. 3 strikes you're out, it just don't suit you.
We'll offer treatment on demand and get folks off drugs, reveal the human face of our addicts and thugs.
And start to care about the wars fought in our name in other countries down south where they rape and maim.
'Cause you know, corporations lobby hard, Oxy and Sikorsky starved.
All interests, pesticides, training troops for genocide.
So send them my regards, you hear, and in the 09 fiscal year,
We'll also send them glyphosate and helicopters Black Hawk makes.
and if you want the inside scoop, we'll probably send a lot more troops. Troops, troops, troops.
Hey Congress, take a stand. Don't go along with Bush's plan.
To fight this war to the last man, guns won't end it, but peace can. Can.
So get every Camilo and every Stan to band together, join hand in hand.
The babs of this world will bumble and cry, while the poor and the peaceful rise so high.
We think people have a right to join the debate, to examine the drug war and decide its fate.
You've heard from us, one message, it's true. There's so much more to say, and now we want to hear from you.